Hello, Dr. Zender, fellow students. This is my PowerPoint presentation on Initiative 502 and why we should lower the taxes to benefit the state's deficit. To give you a brief history, in November 2012, voters in Colorado and Washington State approved legal retail sales of marijuana, which Colorado sales starting January 1st, 2014, and Washington sales starting June 1st, 2014. The ballot initiatives passed by strong margins. Colorado Amendment 64 passed 55% to 45%, while Washington Initiative 502 passed 56% to 44%. Retail sales would be separate from each state's pre-existing medical marijuana programs. Just one drug has stood the test of time, and it's now being legalized in various forms, either as a medical pain reducer or outright legalization for anyone who wants to experience the high that it brings. Marijuana medically has been legalized in 22 states and the District of Columbia. Medical marijuana can be purchased from authorized medical marijuana dispensaries by anyone in the legalization state who has a medical marijuana card that is issued as a result of a doctor's authorization. The main ingredient in marijuana, THC, has been determined to be a pain reliever and antidepressant for patients who suffer from pain and the debilitating psychological effects of a permanent disability. So almost half of the United States has legalized medical marijuana. This suggests that over one half of the United States, 28 states to be exact, do not favor the legalization of medical marijuana. It may be that the pressure to conform among the remaining 28 states will result in more states legalizing medical marijuana, but only time will determine this outcome. The question that I look to answer is not why these other states will not conform to an extremely logical and financially beneficial decision to any state. The question I wish to answer is why the state of Washington should lower the taxes on cannabis and help lower the crime rate at the same time, not just locally, but internationally as well. One of the biggest benefits of legalizing marijuana is the effect on crime. The U.S. federal government spent over $15 billion in 2010 on the war on drugs, at a rate of about $500 per second. State and local governments spent at least another $25 billion. This is ridiculous. The number of people killed in Mexico's drug war since 2006, over 100,000 people. The number of people arrested for a marijuana law violation in 2013, 693,482. The number of those charged with marijuana law violations who were arrested for possession, 609,423. That's 88%. The criminal empires are like any business. When the price is high, because the government wants to place a high tax to pay for a new program, the criminal empires will create a bid discount and be able to stay afloat. If the state of Washington can see how they're increasing the cost of marijuana, the only action that will be taken by the citizen that can't afford it is to go where they can. This takes us backwards and does not benefit the state's deficit, and in actuality adds to the state's debt by requiring police officers to be increased to assist in newly recreated crime. The general intent of both measures in each state is to safely regulate and tax marijuana use similar to that of alcohol. Each calls for a licensing system of production facilities, sets limits of personal use, determines the tax margin of retail marijuana, and even allocates where funds obtained from taxes will go. The two largest differences between the policies are in the tax rate. Colorado is calling for at least a 15% rate, while Washington mandates 25%. And the restrictions on personal grows, Colorado allows people to grow a maximum of 3 adult plants, while Washington does not. Supply and demand do not immediately affect the market price, as there will be some delay between when cannabis is demanded, when the supply is available, and when their combined economic efforts on market price actually occur. In other words, it will take time for cannabis producers to see the difference between supply and demand and thus take action. Let's look at cigarettes for a second. The tax on cigarettes has increased to 13.3%. Sure, the CDC and other non-smoking organizations will tell you people have cut back on smoking. Maybe that's true. Although what also happened is this. After Washington last increased its cigarette tax by $1 a pack in 2010, the average number of cigarettes sold yearly in Washington dropped by about 20 million packs, according to the state's Department of Revenue. At the same time, the number of packs sold in Oregon, where the state tax was about $2 less per pack, rose by an average of 13.5 million per year, the same department reported. What we're seeing is not really a decline. What we are seeing is people following supply and demand. Same thing will happen if our taxes are too high for marijuana. If the state lowers the tax rate, then more people will buy and the demand for the black markets will cease to exist, increasing the incoming monies from marijuana while decreasing the spending on crime prevention for marijuana. Because marijuana can be purchased as a cigarette, an edible, a liquid, or vapor, all with a variety of concentrations, a specific excise tax is untenable. Washington State imposes a 25% tax on producer sales to processors, another 25% tax on processor sales to retailers, and a further 25% tax on retailer sales to customers. Plus, the state business and occupation gross receipts tax, plus the sales tax of 6.5%, plus local sales taxes. Movies calculated that total effective tax rate to be about 44%. By comparison, Washington taxes cigarettes at about 104% and beer at about 11%, recently cut from 16. Colorado collects tax revenue from marijuana sales through a 15% excise-based tax on the average wholesale market rate, a 10% state tax on retail marijuana sales, a state sales tax of 2.9%, varied local sales taxes, and local marijuana taxes such as 3.5% tax in Denver. The best solution that will assist the state of Washington in decreasing the debt is to not be greedy. It is to tax marijuana fairly, like it does liquor. The CDC says that liquor is responsible for 88,000 deaths and 2.5 million years of potential life lost. The economic costs of excessive alcohol consumption in 2006 were estimated at $223.5 billion. I think it's time to change our way of thinking and realize that alcohol and marijuana are not the same. One actually kills, but there is no war on that one. To conclude, my research determined that there is no negative effect of marijuana on anyone throughout history at this time. There's only been positive effects. And the deaths that occur on the borders of the United States and other countries that perform illegal activities to try to bring their drugs into our country is only a result of what the United States has done to create this war on drugs. When we're able to alleviate this problem, we will be able to see nationally how truly beneficial it will be to our entire nation. But we have to start with our state. We have to lower the taxes. And we must not be greedy when we are trying to do something that both benefits the government, local government, as well as the citizens of our state. Thank you for listening.